All right, folks. I'm going to do the best I can and introduce this lesson. I haven't done Illustrator in quite a while and just created this lesson. Although I have taught this lesson quite a few times, just never recorded it and done it on Canvas. So I just created this module. I haven't published it yet. I've tried to include here. So Illustrator is a very unique and different software than Photoshop. You've heard us talk about this quite a bit before about Photoshop being raster and Illustrator being vector. And I think we're going to find out from your introduction today just what that means in terms of pixels versus vectors, essentially. So let's get into the user interface. What we have here is what's called an artboard. Often you'll hear anyone talks about Illustrator as far as the imagery that you're working with or the space is a artboard versus a canvas that was for Illustrator. For Photoshop, sorry. So we have our tools panel, that's not really changed. We have our panels dock, that's not really changed. And we have our control panel and stuff like that, that's not really changed. Just the terminology for this is now artboard. And what you're going to find also is the zooming in and zooming out is different. The undo is different. So there are some differences in terms of just its in terms of user, in terms of how you use it, okay, as compared to Photoshop, okay? Usability, I don't know if that's even a word. So anyway, so let's get into this. So what you're going to need to do, these are some terminology that's important that you just talked about. Artboard. The pen tool is the number one tool that you're going to be using in Illustrator as far as for our assignments that we're going to do. It may change later, but for now it's going to be primarily the pen tool. And the pen tool creates a path, and the path is made of anchor points, and anchor points can have control handles, and your path can be an open path or it can be a closed path, and you're going to have selection tools so you can change your anchor points or move your anchor points or your control handles. You're going to have a direct selection tool, which then you can select groups of anchor points or the entire shape so that you can even rotate or resize. Now I've included this video. I would like for you to watch this video, and you can pause my video. Hopefully you've already watched this video. I don't know. I'm not sure how I'll present it. But anyway, this video is very informative. It talks about all that terminology. It kind of takes you through some of the different creation of shapes and paths and changing those shapes and paths and using handlebars and everything like that, or control handles. So anyway, so let's get into what we're going to create for our grade as far as what we're going to turn in. And that's going to be pen tool practice worksheet. So you're going to click on that, and you're going to come to all of these, okay? So you're going to need to click on these, and you're going to need to download them, okay? Each one, okay? For this first lesson, you're going to only do the first three, and then you're going to do the final three on the next class, okay? So we're going to take this in segments or parts, okay? So let me get to the ones that I've downloaded, which are right here. Now I can do this by highlighting and clicking and then right click to open with Illustrator. I can do it that way. Or I could go into Illustrator and go to File, Open, and then open it that way too. Okay, so whichever way you want to open it. All right, so we are in Illustrator. Okay. First off, let's talk about your workspace. Notice up here in the upper right hand corner, notice how I have this open, which normally wouldn't be. My toolbars over here. I got these little panels over here. I'm just going to go to Essentials, and I'm going to click on Essentials again, and that should reset everything. Okay. Actually, it didn't close that up. I figured that would close that up, but it didn't. But if your workspace looks different than mine, go over to this upper right-hand corner. All these are different layouts for the workspace. So if you click on Essentials, it will reset everything back to sort of a default. Okay. All right. So let me show you something that's very, very, very important. Okay. I'm just going to see if I can move this upwards. And I can't. Trying, but I just can't move this. It's not what I meant to do. I meant to move all this. Anyway, struggling. All right. Okay. Okay, let's go down to this. Okay, I meant to move this over. All right, so let's go to layers. Okay, if I click on layers, and this is going to come up, and it'll be very important probably to just pull this out. If you click on it and just pull it out, because you're going to be using that primarily quite a lot. And I'm just going to close the artboards. So layers is something that's tremendously important for everything we're going to be doing, because just like in Photoshop, we use lots of layers. Just as this icon in Photoshop and Illustrator is create a new layer, okay? And we're actually going to click on that right now. Now here's something we want to do. We are essentially going to create a path on a path that's already created for us, okay, just as a practice using the pen tool. Now notice we're kind of zoomed out on this, and if we were in Photoshop, I'd be able to take my fingers on the trackpad and then 2 fingers and be able to spread them apart and be able to zoom in. Try that now, and I'm trying that too, and it's not working, is it? We're not able to zoom in on this. It doesn't work in Illustrator like it does in Photoshop. So what you have to do is go to Command plus, okay? That's going to zoom you in. Command minus is going to zoom you out, okay? Command plus, Command minus, okay? So we're going to trace over this path, okay? And that is our layer 1. If I go to layer 1 and click on layer 1 and I cut the eyeball off, notice how it goes away. Okay. Now, I do not want to work on this layer. Okay. We don't want to work on this layer. When you turn this in, your work of tracing this, I don't want to see this. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create this into a template. Okay. So that you're not working on top of this layer, okay? So what you're going to do is I want you to double click on layer 1, double click, and this is going to pop up, layer options. I want you to click on template, okay? Now notice what template did. It's going to tell you that it's dim images to 50%, and you're going to click OK. Now notice what it did. It dimmed out this image. It put a lock on it, okay? So if you go over here, you can't do anything, okay? I'm going to show you for example. So I want you to come up here and look over your toolbar. And it does look like we got more tools actually than in Photoshop. But I want you to go to this tool right here, which is your pen tool. Now notice your quick command is P. Okay, actually let me get my little pointer, my big green pointer. And so I want you to notice if you hover over this, it gives you the letter P as your quick command. So let me pull my pointer right here and click on my letter P on the keyboard. All right, now notice it turned into sort of this pencil with a circle and a cross to it. So let me go over and click on layer 2 and then come over and see what that looks like. Oh, now we got a pen tool, okay? If I come over and click on this layer, it's not going to let me do anything because it's locked, okay? If I click back on this layer, now we got the pen tool and we're good to go, okay? All right, so we got the pen tool. We're on the right layer. We create our template, okay? If I go over to, now this is no longer an eyeball, but I can click on that and it will make it disappear or reappear, okay? All right, so when we're done turning this in, I want this cut off, okay? All right, so now I want to redirect your attention to this down here, okay? Now remember, we had a foreground background in Photoshop. Here we have a fill, okay? This is called the fill, and this is called the stroke, okay? Fill and a stroke. So if you know up here even, this is our stroke and this is our fill. This is our stroke weight, okay? So, and even then down here we have a no fill, and then here we can reset things from back to our default, to where this is white and then this is black, okay? And that's sort of your default, okay? Now, we want to just only deal with a stroke right now. We don't want to deal with a fill. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our fill and we're going to go to the none and put a little line diagonally through it so we won't have any fill, okay? We do want a stroke, we do want a black stroke, and that is fine. So the stroke up here, I want us to set it to 2 because we want it to be just a little thicker, okay? All right, we're set and ready to go. We're going to come down here. This is going to be really elemental at first and seem really simple. So we'll just go through the motions, okay? So we'll just click on the 1. Just get your pointer of your pen just right on that and then click and release. Now, you have created your first anchor point, okay? Notice there is nothing attached to this. I didn't hold down the mouse, I just clicked and released. But there's something we left behind there. And if we can zoom in on that, actually, if I have my reading glasses, that says anchor. I know it's a very pale green looking color, but that says anchor, okay? So I'm going to go up here to number 2, and I'm going to click again. Wow, okay, we just create a path, all right? It just filled in between that anchor to that anchor and created a path, okay? If I come down here, number 3, click again. Now, check this out. Notice that green line that disappeared horizontally right here, okay? What that is telling me is that I'm in a line horizontally with that first anchor point. That might be good information to know if you're ever trying to create something completely horizontal. So it kind of just informs you of that. So I'm going to click here. Now I'm going to come up to number 4 and see we got that little green horizontal line coming up because it tells us we're right in line horizontally with that number 2 anchor point. Click again, click again, click again, and click again on number 7, and we're done. Okay. Now, I'm going to take you a little further and show you something. Okay. For instance, if I go up here to the little box now, and I click that off, notice I have my little anchor points are there. Okay. Now let's go up here to these little selection tools. We have our direct selection tool and we have our selection tool. Let's go to direct. If I click on direct, notice how nothing, no box or anything has changed. If I can go and click on a anchor point, okay, so if I go click on this anchor point, I selected that anchor point, okay. Now, what I can do actually is move this anchor point. I just clicked and pulled it, okay. Now, if I wanted to undo that, I go to Command Z, just like I used to do in Photoshop. Now, let's say I do this. Let's say I click and move that, and then I click and move that, and then I click and move that, right? Now, what I can do to undo this is go Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. I didn't have to click on Option. In Photoshop, you have to click on Option, okay? Here, Command Z. That's it, okay? All right, now I want to show you with this selection tool. If I click on that, notice a big box just happened to appear all the way around this. And what that does, this selection tool selects the entirety of everything that's on that layer, okay? So if I go to click on anything in this, it's going to affect all of the anchors, okay? So I can, if I click on one anchor to go move it, it's going to move all of them, okay? So if I go up to the corner, notice what appears. It appears a kind of curved angle, and so I can then rotate this, okay? So I'm going to go Command Z, and get back to where I was, okay? Now if I click anywhere outside of this, that selection goes away. If I click anywhere on that, the entire selection goes back, okay? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn this in. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to Export. And I want you to export this to your folder on your desktop. Okay, anywhere on your folder on the desktop. And you can probably auto create you an Illustrator folder in your folder on the desktop. Okay, so I'm just going to hit cancel for now, but that's how you export that. Now notice how this already says JPEG. Okay, you got these other options, but the default in terms of what happened when we went to export is the JPEG. You don't have to select JPEG. JPEG's already there. I'm just going to go ahead and try to save this just so I don't miss out on anything that you need to do. So I'm just going to click on desktop. I'm going to go to export. Okay. This is why I was curious about what was going to happen. So this is going to tell you it's going to color module as RGB, quality is 5, and blah, 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 and that's okay. That's fine. Okay. So now if I go to my desktop, if I get past all this stuff and get to my desktop, you can see somewhere on here, oh, where to go? I exported, didn't I? Let's try that again. File, maybe I didn't export to the right place. Export. There's so many things on my desktop. I'm just going to go to my Dropbox and just put it there. So I'm going to go to export this one JPG, click OK. Now let me go to my Dropbox, and there it is. Okay. So you're going to be turning that in, okay? But there's other things going to be turning in, so let's get to that. Okay. So now I can close that. I can click on Don't Save. I can go to the rest of my files that I downloaded from my worksheets. I can go back now to worksheet number 2. Come on now. Sorry. So you're going to need to download this one, and we're going to work off of this one. I've already downloaded it, so I'm going to go to Illustrator. I'm going to open it from there, if I can get to it. Let's see here. So I'm going to go to File, Open, see if it goes to my folder. I don't know, so I'm going to have to go through all my folders here. So RJR, Curriculum, Courses, Digital Design, Lessons, Illustrator, Pen Tool Practice Worksheets, number 2, and then we are. Okay, hopefully yours is much easier to get to than mine. So here we are, and we're going to do some more advanced kind of things now that we've kind of run through the basics of the pen tool. Now we got to do the same thing as we did on the first one. We got to create our template. We're going to double click on layer 1. I'm going to move a little quicker now. Go to template here. Okay. Create a new layer here. Go click on my pen tool. Go to my fill. Exit out. And we're good to go. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, no, we're not. I need to make my stroke as 2. Okay. I'm going to zoom in. Move this over. Move that out of the way. Now, we're getting ready to do something we haven't done yet. We're going to use control handles. Okay, control handles happen whenever we click and create an anchor point and we don't release. We click and hold and drag. Okay, now I'm going to demonstrate that for you. So I'm going to come over here to number 1. I'm going to click and press and then drag. Now check that out. That is called a control handle. Okay. So wherever my pointer goes, the end of that control handle goes. And it has an opposing handle as well. So what I'm going to do is go to number 2 and then release that. So my anchor point has these 2 points out from it. Okay, this handle. Now watch what that does. I'm going to come straight over from that to 3, click and hold, and then pull out to number 4 and line up there and release. Now check that out. Okay. By pulling this out this way my first time from the anchor point, it influenced what this did. And then by my clicking and pulling down this way also influenced what that line did. Okay. So it's not like the line's just making a straight line. This handle right here is going to push my line out in this angle. And then this right here is going to push this out in that way. So let's continue. I'm just going to click on number 5, push out to number 6. Then we'll click on number 7, push out the number 8. Now, I'm going to do something that's going to challenge you the next little phase of things. Okay. We're going to not click on number 9 so directly. We want to be off. Okay, let's say we want to be on number 9, but we just didn't get on number 9. Okay, so let's say we clicked like right here. And then when we stretch our line out, we just end up like right there. Okay, so we're not very perfect, are we? Okay, we got off. It's just not exact. Okay, now here's what we can do. Your little arrow keys down your right hand corner of your keypad, you have your up, down, right, left. If you click left, because we need to go left, watch what happens. It's going to go left. Now, so we can fine tune it. We can hone in on it. Let's say we want to get really fine tuned. I'm very controlled on this because we're talking about creating logos, right? Logos are very exacting. They have very precise edges and shapes. And this is what this Illustrator allows us to do. So we're going to zoom in. We're going to go Command plus, 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 plus. Zoom in and get surgical with this, okay? So I'm going to go my right arrow. Notice how those increments seem to have gotten smaller since I zoomed in. And then keep clicking right arrow until I'm lined up over. And then I'm going to go down arrow until I get right where I want it to be. Right? Now, I'm going to zoom out because I'm too zoomed in. I can't see my control handle. Now, this control handle needs to get right here. How am I going to do that? This is where my direct selection tool is going to come in. I'm going to come over here, click on that, and then I can pull it right there. Okay? And now we're all nice and tidy, right? So we're going to resume now and continue with our creating this path. Okay, so I'm going to come over and click Pen Tool. And now I'm going to come here and click on number 11 and click and drag. Uh-oh, something didn't happen. I did all this jostling around, clicking around, moving around, and now I can't continue with my path. Okay, let me show you how to reestablish that. It's real simple. Go Command Z to undo that anchor point, come back over, and what's going to happen, you can't just click on this. I'm going to show you. If you just click on that anchor point, you're going to know you're on it because that word anchor shows up. Click on that. And if I come over here and click on number 11 and then try to click and drag, still didn't happen, did it? So let's try that again. Come over, click on that, then come over here and click and drag. The reason I didn't have it first time is I didn't click directly on the anchor point. And so now we're reconnected, but darn it, it just doesn't have that curve there. Okay, so here's what you got to do. It gets frustrating and you just have to kind of work with it. So Command Z, and what you're going to have to do is come over here and click on this, pull your line back out one more time, your control handle. You're going to have to redo that essentially. And I've kind of made some mistakes here. I think I got multiple anchor points there. Let's try it again. Okay, I think I'm right now. You see how that's kind of connected? I had like 2 anchor points right there. So now I'm going to line that up, drop that in, release it, come here, click, and now notice how that curve seems to be working correctly. Then come down to number 12 and release. Okay. All right. So what happens anytime like you use like the arrow keys, like I'm going to do right now? Let's just say I use the arrow keys. And then if I go to try to recontinue this path, it just sort of disengages it. Okay. So it's almost better that you continue your path, even if you get off your path, maybe finish your path, and you can go back with the selection tool and move things. Otherwise, you're just going to have to go back and re-click on that anchor point after you've moved it, and then continue. Okay, so at any point, once you're done, now you can go back to your selection tool, direct selection tool, click on something and move it, right, to any place, anywhere, right? You can restretch, reshape. I can click on that. I can use the arrow key. Right? Or I can just click on it and move it. If I click anywhere here, it's going to basically deselect. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out. And so hopefully that in itself is going to be tremendously helpful for you to understand how when you need to change the path, edit the path, reconnect the path, to get all that working, because believe me, you're going to run into that situation and you're going to not know what to do. And hopefully my showing you just now will resolve that for you. Okay. All right. So let's zoom in on this. And we're going to click on the pen tool. Now, I'm not going to click on the pen tool. Click on the P key on your keyboard. Okay. Now, so that gave you the pen tool, right? Now, you see this? That is the A key. That is the V key. So click on A, click on V, click on P. A, V, P. That is the quick command for the selection tool and the pen tool. Now there's more we got to get to on the pen tool, but we'll get to that later. Okay. So we're going to continue with making our paths. So I'm going to click on 1, pull to 2, click on 3, pull to 4, click on 5, pull to 6. Notice I got off a little bit. Click on 7, pull to 8. Now notice this doesn't come all the way out. So let's click on our A key so we can grab 6 here and pull it out to 9. And since I got off a little bit, I'm going to zoom in to this anchor point, click on that. I'm going to use my arrow key. Zoom in, kind of hone that in to right there. Let's see, I can even, now I'm zoomed in, I can move that better to right there. I can move this better to right here. I can move this better to right there. That looks pretty good. See, I couldn't see that control handle until I clicked on that anchor point. If I click off the anchor point, I can't see it. Click on the anchor point. See, I can't see the anchor point anywhere along here. And it says path, 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 anchor. And that little white dot showed up. That's how I know I'm at an anchor point. Okay, let me zoom in a little closer. Path, 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 anchor. So if you know you got an anchor point there somewhere, when you come across that path, that little line shows up and kind of makes it visible so that you can find that anchor point. Okay. Click on it, and now the handles show up. Okay. I'm going to move that to center that. Anchor point's a good place there. I could retract that just a little bit. So, okay. You might be thinking, well, what's all the fuss? Why we gotta put these things in such specific locations and be so precise? Because we can, okay? Because we can. And that's the thing, is when you're dealing with a vector, okay, and remember, the important thing about a vector is it can be increased and decreased infinitely and does not change, okay? This is sort of an XY coordinate. This could be put on a hot air balloon, now that balloons are kind of in the news. But this could be made very large, and it could be very precise and not lose any resolution, or it could be shrunk down to a business card size, and everything stay put and in good resolution. Whereas you do that in Photoshop, you have issues with resolution. It's not XY coordinates, it's a certain number of pixels and a certain amount of space. And when you increase that, it has to sort of fill in, and things get really just diffused and low resolution, right? So, anyway, so when you're dealing with logos, you have very sort of precise shapes and curves, and you can do this with has hard edges, and so that's what Illustrator is catered towards. Okay, so optimized perhaps. So I'm going to click off on this so we don't see it. I'm going to click off here so we're deselected, and I'm going to zoom out. And we're going to turn this in. So we go to File, Save As. No, not Save As. Okay, so I did a bad thing. I went to Save As. And so notice what Save As is. It's kind of strange. It's got JPG and AI. AI is the extension for Illustrator. Okay. I cannot take Illustrator files on Canvas. I cannot grade Illustrator files on Canvas. I can only grade JPG files on Canvas, as you may know, right? So we need to cancel that. So I need to go to File, Export, and then save this to your desktop folder, okay? And if you want to put your name on this, like for two, like maybe put, for me, it might be Kenneth 2, and then that way it's something different than what was the original name. Maybe do that and put that into your desktop folder. Okay. Maybe, don't save it in the folder where the practice sheets are. Just save it into the folder that's on your desktop where you're keeping your Illustrator files. Okay. So then you go to export. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to click cancel. Okay. So I'm going to close this one. We're going to do one more. Okay. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Open. Go to number, is it 3? We're on number 3 now. Okay. All right. So we're on our third one and our last one for today. Now we're going to create our new layer. We're going to double click on the first layer. We're going to make it a template. Click OK. We'll come over to our fill. We're going to say none. We're going to come up to our stroke, and we're going to make it 2. Okay. We're going to zoom in. Now, there's not much new that we're going to do here, except we're going to enclose a shape. We haven't enclosed a shape yet. We've only had open paths. Now we're going to close it. Okay, so I'm going to select my pen tool by clicking the P key. Now I need to make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm going to go over here and click on 1, stretch it out to 2. Click on 3, stretch it out to 4. And then we're going to click on 5. And notice that little circle that appears. It's kind of hard to see because things are kind of in the way. There you can see it. Just barely on the corner of that little gray rectangle, you can see a little circle. That means it's going to enclose. But I'm going to click and I'm going to drag out to 6. I'm going to click, drag out to 6. Now notice how everything now connected. That handlebar is enclosed. That first handle, control handle, is now being controlled by my clicking on that same anchor. So I'm going to go to 6, and I'm going to release it. That is an enclosed shape. We just made an anchor point that's connected this way, an anchor point that's connected this way and this way. Okay. So now I'm going to come over to this one, just practice again. Click 1. Oh, I meant to drag it. Control Z. Whoops. Click 1, drag to 2. Click 3, drag to 4. Click 5, drag to 6. Now let's try something. Okay. I want you to now change the stroke on this. I'm going to come over and click on my stroke. And I'll come up to I thought the stroke would show up, but I think we got to click on our selection tool. Well, okay then. That's not working. So let me come over and click on this. And that's not working. So let me click on our selection tool. Well, okay. This is what I was trying to get to show up. I was trying to get this to show up so that when we could change our stroke, okay? So I don't think I can click on pen tool. Well, I can click on pen tool. Some reason this was not being effective. Oh, there's one other thing. Okay. I think I know what's about to happen here. We'll see. I'm going to click the selection tool. I'm going to select this shape. Okay. And let's click on stroke. I'm going to increase the stroke. Now notice that is changing the stroke on this. Okay, we're now at 7. But there's an important thing here. We're on the same layer. Notice how we're all on the same layer. If I click the eye off in this, it'd take those both away. Some point, sometime, you're going to want to create new layers for these things that you're creating. Okay, so that you don't, like if I want to, now if I wanted to move this, I could move this and it wouldn't move this one. But at some point, just trust me, you're going to want to create different layers for these things. So I'm going to Command Z and move that. Okay, so we changed the stroke on that. Okay, so let's come over here and we're going to do this one now. Just click the P key, click on 1, drag to 2, click on 3, drag to 4, click on 5, drag to 6. We still got that same stroke. It's really thick. And I didn't enclose that. Didn't enclose it, did I? So let's go Command Z. Now let's go click on this and drag. Now we're connected. Okay. Now let's decrease that stroke. Let's see if I can do this again now. Click on the pen, didn't show up. Click on stroke, didn't show up. Click on this, click on that, and it shows up. I don't know. I figured it would show up just by my clicking on the stroke down here. Evidently, I have to click on the selection tool and click on the shape to get my stroke to show up. So I'm going to decrease that. Now, let's say we want to change the color on this. Let's go over here and click on the stroke and double click. Now we can maybe change the color. Let's make it any color you want. I'm going to select blue. And I would have thought that would have changed it. Why didn't I change it? Ew. It's because I didn't move this. Duh. Okay, now we got that. And now it's changed. Okay. So now I changed the stroke. Okay. So let's go over to this one. Click on the P key. And I'm going to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And I gotta look for the little circle to show up from 5 to 6. Now, we're going to do a first. We're going to give it a fill. Okay. I'm going to come over here and click on the fill area. And I'm going to double click. And I'm going to select a color. Click OK. And we have a fill now. We now have our first shape with a fill in it. Okay. Zoom out. What we got left here? Okay, just 3 more, 4 more. Okay, we'll do this quickly. Oh. Now watch what's going to happen because I still got my fill there. Okay, watch what's going to happen. I still got a fill. I'll come down here and click and drag. Watch what's going to happen. Well, this is kind of weird, doesn't it? There's no path right here. It's just trying to fill in an area that's here that's trying to be defined by these 2 anchor points. So sometimes it's better really just to have this fill off so then you can complete your shape, then fill it in. But we'll just do it anyway. Okay. Okay. These are simple enough, right? And as long as you get the little circle there, you should be able to close it. Now remember, you can rotate these. If I click on this selection tool, I can rotate it. Now check this out. I can click on my shift key and stretch it. It's like the transform tool, right? So if I come over here and click on this and hold the shift key, stretch, it will constrain it. Now if I don't hold the shift key, watch what happens. Okay. And then I can also click and move it. So if I don't hold the shift key, it won't be constrained, it will get distorted. And then if I hold the shift key, it constrains it. Okay. So what I want you to do is cut that off, the bottom layer, zoom out, and I want you to turn that in. So as for your JPEG, you're going to go to File, Export, and whatever your name or a name with JPEG, notice JPEG is the format, the default when you export, and you're going to go export, okay, to your desktop folder, and you're going to turn that in. And that is it. I know that was a lot. It's an introduction. You've now covered the basics. Hopefully that was very helpful for you. And going forward, creating your paths, the next challenge is going to be to make paths that are pretty clean, kind of precise, and in that video they explained that a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit about that more later. Okay? All right. That's it for now.